Welcome. We are live in Blog Talk Radio. So let's get this party started by welcoming our global family. We are a global family on YouTube, Facebook, and Blog Talk Radio. So thank you all for joining me tonight. We got a really exciting show. Let's breathe into the moment.
Blog Talk Radio. Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution. Join me, Naima Latif, every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, as we bring you stimulating discussions about the issues affecting our lives. If you're listening online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution, press the blue button that says follow and get our daily topics every morning directly to your email and your smartphone. Hi, I'm Naima Latif, Executive Producer of the Female Solution Radio Show. We invite you to call in 515-605-9325 and participate in this daily think tank as we examine the challenges we face and develop solutions that restore peace and harmony. We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network called 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.
And we want you to talk to us. That is the whole collection of conscious people tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're also live on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Viata's Tiny House Village. I am growing a tiny house community on YouTube, as well as in my own community, teaching people how to live in a smaller space. These days we need it more than ever because people can't afford rent and they can't afford food. So how do you save money? Living in a tiny house. So here's just a little sample of the journey I've been on to come to this 320 square foot paradise, that I'm in. Yes, we're on fire tonight because we're continuing our discussion from Friday, my Friday show, Health and Wellbeing with Beata, where we discussed healing breast disease with German New Medicine. So, in case you missed my Friday show, I introduced my audience to a woman named Patty Holden, who is of the Cherokee Nation, and she's interviewed by a doctor of German New Medicine on how she resolved her breast disease conflict. So you don't want to miss that. Call your friends. We're going to play that interview again for you. And then we're going to introduce you to the breathing technique that she used to resolve the conflict within her body. As a Native American therapist, Patty Holden, she's a nutritional therapist born in Oklahoma. That's like the central of Native American reservations. And she has a powerful teaching to give us about how this body works. And these days, I'm all about bringing back my Native American culture and teachings and wisdom. The sick care system is dying, and we need to get back to our ancestors' way of living and healing. So before we do that, let's welcome in Becca Shea, who is a Christian artist who brings a Native American beat and song rhythm actually to our show and calling the ancestors. We're going to bring in Becca to help us call in the ancestors. Get your drums and let's drum in the music of Becca.
And has blood has ransomed people for God. From every tribe and language, people, every nation. Where warriors are falling, there's a resurrection coming. It's your time to rise and shine. Oh, wake up, you sleeping giant. The wounds of injustice are being healed by the peace of Yahweh. It's bringing us power through unity. Where warriors are falling, there's a resurrection coming. Tribals come alive. Yeah, wake up, you sleeping giant. Your heartbeat, I feel it. Yeah, I feel your heartbeat. I feel it. Yeah, I feel your heartbeat. I feel it. I feel your heartbeat. I feel it. I feel it. I feel it. Yeshua, bring us together. Bring us together. We cry. Yeshua, bring us together. Bring us together. We cry. Yeshua, bring us together. Bring us together. We cry out for your heartbeat, oh, your heartbeat. This is the hour to know whose side to stand by. Raise up the standard in battle for every fellow tribe. Our warriors are fighting, there's a revival igniting. Search for such a time. Yeah, arise, you blazing fire. Brave and stand firm and listen to your destiny. The rhythm of our Father moves with victory. Where warriors are fighting, there's a revival igniting. So my soul God, and arise, blazing fire. Your heartbeat, I feel it. Yeah, I feel your heartbeat. I feel it. Yeah, I feel your heartbeat. I feel it. I feel your heartbeat. I feel it. I feel it, I feel it. Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry, Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry, Yeshua, bring us together, bring us together. We cry out for your heartbeat, oh, your heartbeat.
Hey, 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 hey. Woo, woo. All right, here we are on Sunday, October 20th. Is this month moving fast enough for you? So October 20th, let's see, that's an 11. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize. 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. We're rotating, reviving, rolling around in a number 11 all day today. It's almost the end of the day, but October 20th, that's 10 plus 20, that's a 30 plus a 3 plus 11 for the year, or 8 for the year brings us to 11. Talk about synchronicity. I have to share with you a confession of sorts. I watched a Netflix movie last night till 2 o'clock in the morning. It was just one of those movies. It's a docu-series. It's actually from a book, and I think it was a TV show or something. I don't know. I just couldn't stop watching it. It was so good. The acting was good. The relationship teaching was fabuloso. And the movie is called Secrets of the River. Maybe some of you have watched it. I was directed to that movie because I can relate it to what we're talking about tonight, the breath work that's needed to heal the river. Now, in this case, the movie was actually filmed in Mexico, and it focused on the Mexican culture, people, and two young men. Well, actually, two young children were the stars for several episodes. You know, it was one of those Netflix movies that just kept going. Next episode, and I'm like, I should be in bed. It's like 12 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I should be in bed. And 1 o'clock. Oh, I should be in bed. And I just couldn't stop because of this. Secrets of the River. We could think about the river as our blood. This is how I interpreted it today as I was riding my bike with the grandkids and my son. I thought about that movie all day. And as I was at the kitchen sink, where I do a lot of my meditation and spiritual awakening comes at the kitchen sink. You know, you're washing dishes, like, wow, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. So, secrets of the river. Many of us are carrying secrets in our bloodline, secrets in our ancestral history that we're not talking about. And that is what causes conflict in our relationships. Now, this movie had a grandma in there that I had. That's probably why I was so attracted to it, because this young boy had to go live with his grandmother because his mother was not well. She was sick. The mother ends up dying, which another trauma for this young man, this child. Let's say he's a child. He wasn't a young man. He was a child, 9 years old, I think. And the relationships in this docu-series or movie episodes was just so eye-opening. When you talk about the gender confusion today and the breast disease that many women are suffering with, we're looking at a generation of wounded children who are still in conflict, active conflict with their bodies. So Secrets of the River to me was about the bloodline and the blood that many of us are carrying secrets in. And so it's to me, it was just great. Now somebody else might have a whole different interpretation of this movie, but I just thought it was so educational for relationship reasons. And the gender issue was there with the masas. I think they were called masas in Mexico. That's like for transgenders. So there was a lot of activity about transgender. A little boy who had very more feminine qualities. A father of his friend who was really homophobic and all that. It was just amazing. And then to see the childhood relationships change in the development of the series as they became adults. What happens? I'm not going to spoiler alert anything, but that's why I just couldn't stop watching it. And I had to watch it to the end to see how it all played out, which was just fabulous. So that's why tonight we're talking about this breathing technique, this rebirthing holotropic birthing, breath work, rebirthing that my guest tonight, Patty Holden, at least she's a guest on YouTube, is going to share how she cleaned up her river. Let's say she had to clean up the river. Secrets of the River showed me how we hold these secrets in our blood, even. And then dis-ease, imbalance shows up because we're not talking about the secret. That's what happened in this movie. It was like, conflict everywhere. People got hurt, wounded, whatever. Lots of wounds came out. And then people are confused about who they are. And then some people are not confused about who they are. They put on men putting on dresses and whatever. It was just so relevant to today's society. And even in Mexico. Mexico is an indigenous community. So it's very appropriate, I think, that we hear from Patty Holden tonight about her journey as an indigenous woman, of the Cherokee Nation, and how her breast disease developed, just like so many other women, and how we can reach out in our own mind and our body with our breath and heal that secret of the river of the blood and bring about calm and balance. So that's what we're doing tonight. I hope this is going to be helpful to you. And let me just put up a disclaimer. This show is not intended to replace any advice you may be receiving from your medical doctor. If you have an acute or chronic health condition you haven't been able to resolve, see your trusted health professional. And with that said, let's go to the interview with Patty Holden that we played part of it on Friday, and I might play the whole thing because I just want you to see the mind of a Native American woman and how she's used German New Medicine wisdom to bring balance to her body, to recognize and honor her body. See, Native Americans had an honor for their body, their land, their animals, and then the United States and European mind came in and tried to wipe it all out. But it's still alive, and that's what we're here to revive it, restore it, and bring it back, because that's what's needed. My friend Neb Taharkas reminds us all the time that evolution is the solution. And in this case, we have to evolve back to our Native American ancestor wisdom. And that's the evolution we need today. So let's listen to Dr. Melissa Sell, who's a German New Medicine practitioner, interview Patty Holden, who is a Cherokee Nation resident and nutritional therapist, on how she used this particular rebirthing technique to bring the balance back to her body after a conflict, a personal, emotional conflict. And we get a disclaimer right away.
The information contained in this video is intended for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Hello and welcome. I am so excited. Today I am doing a very special interview with a very special person. A few weeks ago, a wonderful woman, Patty Holden, reached out to me and said, I have a story to share with you about something that I went through. She is going to share with us her incredible story about how a shocking and emotional life event led to the development of a tumor in her breast, and how she handled the entire situation using the knowledge of the 5 biological laws of German New Medicine. And she found me through my videos on YouTube, which I just think is so cool. And she found that the videos were very helpful for her as she went through this entire process. Patty is a former ballroom dancer, and she's now a nutritional therapist and anthropologist who studies the deterioration of food culture in America. She was born in Oklahoma. She's a member of the Cherokee Nation, and she now lives in Florida, where she teaches classes on nutrition, healthy cooking, ancient medicine, and runs a business called Traditional Lifestyle Creations. She is very passionate about bringing back ancient health traditions and reconnecting people to the lost wisdom of our ancestors. So obviously she is such a cool person. So just want to start by just having Patty share a little bit about your personal history and kind of what led you to this, where you are now with your health and with the development of the tumor in your breast.
Okay, well, I will make this very short and quick, and that is that I did used to be a ballroom dancer, which involved the acrylic nails and the makeup and the fast-paced lifestyle. So, and then towards the end of that, I did go to college, and I went all the way through grad school, and I was a single mom. And by the end of all of that, my health had kind of gone to a deterioration. And someone had told me about the alkaline diet and all these kinds of things. And so I went on a health journey, and from 2009 until basically my father died in October of 2017. So basically 16 months ago around. Up until then, I was, and even after that, I was doing so many things for my health. Diet change, detoxification, all kinds of ways of detoxification. And right before he died, I had just recently found out about German New Medicine, which was kind of ironic. And that's what helped get me through most of my experience since he passed away. He died in a car accident overnight, and we can talk about that in a minute. But so I thought I was doing everything healthy, and so basically, throughout that, I became a nutritional therapist, and I teach people how to reverse disease in their body by diet change. So I have all these skills and all these tools at my home that were already handy to me when this happened. So that's basically, I guess, sets the stage of where this all starts.
Yeah, and that's what, many people who are living very healthy lifestyles kind of get really shocked and kind of feel betrayed by their body when they develop something like a tumor, because they, by all other measures, thought that they were, quote, healthy. And most people see cancer or tumors in the body as a profound sign of unhealthiness, a profound sign of disease. But with German New Medicine, we know it's different than that. And it was so great that you had some of that background when your family went through a very shocking situation. And so let's look at the shock, because that's what sets off a biological program, is when you are shocked, when you are caught off guard, when something happens that was completely unexpected, and your body starts a biological program to help you deal with the fallout of what happened. So if you could share with us your conflict shock, your DHS that occurred when you lost your father.
So it was a Monday night, and it was 11:30 at night, and I was basically getting into bed when the phone rang. I was sitting on the bed and the phone rings, and it was my daughter. She's a deputy. She was, I think, around 24 years old at the time. This was about, like I said, about 16 months ago, October 23rd, 2017. So I'm getting into bed, the phone rings, and it's my daughter, and she says, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "Well, I am now. What's up?" And she said, "Well, Grandma, I don't know if somebody had called her or texted her, but somehow she had gotten information that there had been a car accident and that my parents had both been pushed off the road by a drunk driver, and that my father had been airlifted to the hospital, and that it didn't look good." And an hour later, she shows up at the front door, and she had to actually, the deputy, the sheriff's office brought her. They told her first, and then they brought her to my house, and she told me around 1:00 in the morning that my father had in fact died. And he had just been at my house the week before and visited us. She had gotten Deputy of the Year, and he had come down to visit us the week before to see her get that award. So his presence was still very recent. So that was like one of those nights that nobody ever wants to have to go through, but we all eventually will have to go through something.
So that shocking situation, from the German New Medicine perspective, you didn't know at the time, so you had this huge emotional trauma. And when the trauma happens, we don't know specifically how our body is going to interpret it. And you don't find out until you resolve it. So you went through a period of grief. You went through a period where, if you could share with us a little bit, like when you were conflict active and you realized, I'm not sleeping, could you share with us a little bit about that process and how long that took?
Well, it was right about then. Because I work with people who have disease, I had a friend who had breast cancer, and of course she kept going back to her oncologist and getting told all the bad news. She wasn't really resolving any of the conflicts between her and her daughter, which I think were at the root cause of her problem. And I was watching your videos, and it was actually trying to help her.
Oh, wow.
So, but I did not have any symptoms at that point. But I knew I was in conflict active because I was waking up around 4:00 in the morning every single night, already crying from waking up from the dream of that phone call. So that phone call just kept waking me up in the morning. And this went on, for probably 6 months after the car accident. And in my mind, I was actually more concerned about my mom, because the more I watched the videos about German new medicine, the more I realized we were in one of those situations where everybody in our family could be victim to one of these kinds of things, because this was very traumatic for all of us. And especially my mother, who was in the car with him, and they were talking for a good 15 or 20 minutes before they pulled her out. And then when they pulled him out, the bleeding just went crazy, and he died within a few minutes. So I'm still concerned about her because she's still not sleeping.
Yeah. So you mostly were, trying to help your friend, trying to help your mom, not even necessarily like maybe having an idea. Okay, I'm waking up. When did it become clear to you that I've got to resolve this conflict?
When I started to understand what the difference between conflict active and the conflict resolution, when I started to understand the difference between the sleeping cycles, that's when I started to realize I'm not sleeping. And so that's when I started to engage with, purposely engaging with emotional trauma, breathing, exercising, and meditation, and just conscious thinking about these things, and realizing that I was still in conflict active, and that I needed to really focus on sleeping at night. I needed to get over this as quickly as I could.
And let me just pause here for a minute. She mentioned how she's concerned about her mother, and rightly so, because her mother could develop the same breast disease that she has been struggling with because of the trauma of that situation. But with Patty's knowledge of German new medicine and how to heal, she can help her mother now. That's why all of us, if we can really grasp this knowledge and wisdom, we can help other people who might go through the same type of trauma of losing a loved one in a moment like this, and then having the body respond to it in this way.
So I did 3 rebirthing sessions in a 1-week period on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And all 3 sessions brought up emotional traumas from the past. The third one was so traumatic at the end that I actually threw up. I had to run to the bathroom and throw up. So all 3 of them brought up all kinds of stuff from the past involving men. And none of them were my father, by the way. My father there was never an issue between me and my father. There was only love. But I have had a lot of traumatic experiences in the past with other men. So these things all became apparent. And this was in the summer of last year. So this was about 6 to 8 months after my father's death that I engaged in these activities. And it was about 2 weeks after those 3 rebirthing exercises that I started to notice a small lump on my breast. That's when I started to realize I might be going through this myself.
Wow. Okay. Now, were the rebirthing technique that you did, was this something you went through with someone else, or did you do it all by yourself?
I did it with someone else.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Experience with this, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And so was it the third one that you just really felt that like that release? Was it immediate that you started sleeping the next night, or did it kind of take a few days to normalize?
It was within days after that
Okay.
I started to notice and tell others, wow, I'm actually starting to sleep at night.
So I'm going to pause that here and bring you to rebirthing. What is rebirthing? Because that's the process, the therapy that helped her. And we want to talk about that as a possible tool for you and your loved ones when you recognize the traumas that you've been in, and using the rebirthing to help you come out of the conflict, resolve, as they say, resolve the conflict. In German New Medicine, the third phase of the biological conflict conditions is to resolve the conflict. The active conflict was when your parents are killed in a car accident. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And then that's when the body registers a lien on the brain, according to German New Medicine. And that lien is going to stay there until you resolve the conflict. My sister demonstrated that to me in her journey with breast disease. So the second phase is conflict active, where you can't sleep, cold hands, cold feet. And if you can recognize these symptoms in your body, the body is talking to us saying, hey, you're way out of balance. You don't have homeostasis here. And I want to take you on a journey, the body is saying. I want to take you on this journey to fix you. There's nothing wrong, but you're out of balance. So let's fix it. And then what Patty talks about later is the resolution, the conflict resolution that she went through, which is sometimes painful. It's kind of the opposite of surgery, but it's a natural process that the body takes us to. So let's look at what rebirthing is and how this process can help any of us if we recognize and become conscious of our body's messages, our body's signals, our body's language that is telling us we're out of balance because of what happened to you in your family, in your relationship. And here's one way that you can get back into balance. This guy does a rebirthing breath work, and I'm going to show you a couple of them to help you remember.
And supplement your growth. One of them is rebirthing breathwork. Rebirthing breathwork for me, in essence, is about surrender. It's about allowing the exhale, let go again and again and again, and connect more with trust, with willingness to experience, and with knowing that we are held by earth, by mother, by universe, and just by life in general. So find yourself a comfortable position, lying down ideally, and we're going to start to breathe and allow our body to just find its natural rhythm. You can breathe in through the nose or the mouth, but you inhale and exhale through the same channel. The inhale is the yang phase. It's a phase of your declaration, of your filling yourself with life and potential. Breathing into the heart. So often, especially those who are theater trained, we often want to breathe down, lower into the belly, because we don't want a lot of tension, which can instigate the fight or flight mechanism in the body. But for this one, we are going to breathe into the heart. So you don't want this tension here either, but you're allowing it to expand and open your heart, feeling that raw vulnerability. So as you breathe in, allowing the chest to open, and then as you exhale, you simply let go. Not really forcing it out, not exhaling actively, but just allowing gravity to breathe your body for you. The other key aspect is that on the inhale, you don't want to fill yourself to the point of tension. And on the exhale, you don't want to exhale to the point of creating some kind of vacuum. Instead, as you inhale, when it starts to get full, you just let go. And then as soon as you get to a point where you feel empty, you draw that breath in again. So essentially you feel it's like a circular or connected breath, smoothing off the edges. So it's not in and out, it's back and forth, but it's just an unending cycle of breath. Nature teaches this. If you look at the tide as it comes into the shore, there's no point of ending. It's not finite. It just links from one to the other. So it's from the in to the out, from the masculine to the feminine, from the yang to the yin, and each time taking a new chance to surrender even further. Give yourself some time for this. It could be 45 minutes or an hour. This is also a nice practice just to do a few breaths before going into a meeting or before you're going on a date or before you're sitting down to work. Just you can do it sitting up as well. Just breathing in here. Coming to a place of trust that the body has its own wisdom, that if it's allowed to release, the organs, the nerves, the muscles, the endocrine system, the circulation can all come into balance, can come into harmony. Just trust your body. Allow it to breathe. Let go. And the key thing is when you find that rewilded breath, that pant, just ride it. Just stay with it. And sometimes it can feel like you are being breathed rather than you breathing yourself. Another thing to be aware of is there can be a thing called tetany. The limbs can become a bit tense. So you might feel your fingers or forearms curling up or some kind of tension around the mouth. Just breathe through it. That's just some sort of energy or tension that's being stirred up by this process and will be released if you just keep breathing. At the end of the day, nothing bad is going to happen because it's just a very natural breathing process. You can come to a threshold of sorts where we can start to feel like, oh, we might die. And that's just a death urge that's coming up. Once again, you just surrender and trust. Trusting that you have yourself, that this is the right next step for you. You're in a safe space that you've created for yourself, and you're simply breathing. And when you bust through that, that is really passing a threshold. And at that time, we really feel the reunification, the bliss of the reconnection when we're not holding, we're not trying to control everything. And that's a big part of this rites of passage, is not feeling like we are steering at all times, because that confines us to the predictable. What we're interested in is going into the unknown. So trust me, trust yourself, and above all, trust your body to breathe.
All right. I love his comparison to the tide and the shore. Oh my goodness. In the docuseries I watched, Secrets of the River, there were several scenes on the beach where these two young boys and sometimes one of their friends would just sit on the beach and talk what the conflict was in their life, what the relationships were in their life. And as he mentioned, the tide coming in and out is like a surrender. And that's what, when you go through this rebirthing, breathing process, and you have set an intention, so important to set an intention of why you're doing this rebirthing. In Patty's case, she was setting an intention to heal the grief and the sadness and the wound from her father's death. In the case in the movie, the scenes that they were in by the water were one of unity, coming together and comforting one another. Comforting one another because of the stress and turmoil that these two boys were going through and the conflicts that they were in. So we want to show you one more about the rebirthing and the holotropic tool, which we have access to. That's the important thing to remember here. You have access to all this on YouTube. It's like a university of knowledge for the world. But when you start to recognize your conflicts in your life, your traumatic events, death of a child, father, and then your body goes into active conflict with cold sweats, can't sleep, cold hands, and then a tumor develops. Here is where you come for resolution. The holotropic breath, the rebirthing breath. You want to be rebirthed into homeostasis, meaning balance, rebirth into the innocence of your childhood, where you don't react to all these traumas and conflicts like you did when you were a child. So here's one more tool or one more summary of the benefits of holotropic breathwork. So we heard about the rebirthing and the holotropic, which are basically the same things, but there's so much research and advancement that's been done since I started studying German New Medicine like 20 years ago, that it really pays to do your research and find out what are the and this actually is 9 years ago, but many of your nutritional therapists and healing workers are developing these tools to help us use the practices that our ancestors and our Native American therapists use. So here's some information on the brain benefits of holotropic
breathing and rebirthing therapy. Breathwork and something called pranayama, or yogic control over that breath, is a key part of the system of yoga created thousands of years ago. But even if you don't do yoga, breathwork or pranayama just by itself is one of the most practical and quickest ways to tap into parts of your brain's nervous system that are normally out of your control, which means not under your conscious control. And as it turns out, it's just not fluffy hippie stuff. There's tons of research for proof of how breathwork and pranayama, which are two separate things, they can both bust stress, aid in the recovery from buried trauma, help recover from chronic anxiety and panic attacks, and so much more. So even if you don't have any of these clinical issues, it's also one of my favorite ways to hit the reset button and re-energize after a stressful day and week, and to release the tension that you don't even know that you're holding on to until it's gone. So there's lots of different forms of breathwork and pranayama, and I'm just going to talk about a few now. There's a researcher called Dr. Alan Hobson, and he's a psychiatrist at Harvard University. He's a leading brain researcher, and he actually sums up why breathwork is so powerful in a single sentence. It is the one physical thing in our bodies that we can access easily, which links what he refers to as the bottom-up processes in the brain, or the autonomic processes, and those processes in the brain that are under the voluntary control, called the top-down processes. The breath is the link between the bottom-up and the top-down, the unconscious and the conscious processes of the brain. So various styles of breathwork span an entire spectrum of uses and effects on the nervous system. At one end of the spectrum, you have yoga breathing styles or pranayamas to relieve stress, like the healing breath. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have specific breathing practices that are very stimulating. They're more under the breathwork category, and they produce a catharsis or intense emotional release. This is something called holotropic breathwork, also known as rebirthing therapy and transformational breathing. And this is what I'm going to focus on for the rest of this video. Holotropic breathwork also uses music as a catalyst to access deep emotions and deep unconscious thoughts, feelings, and states, and release tension, along with deep circular breathing. Circular breathing means you don't take a pause at the end of the exhale. You inhale right away. And this was a practice that was coined and studied by Dr. Stanislav Grof in the 1960s. And he used it as a powerful therapeutic tool. So a question about this type of circular breathing or holotropic breathwork that I get from my doctor colleagues is that, can this form of circular breathing induce something called hyperventilation syndrome, and can it be dangerous? Hyperventilation syndrome is where the carbon dioxide levels decrease in your blood and in your brain, and it can cause constriction or narrowing of the blood vessels in the brain and the heart in very rare extreme cases. In milder forms of hyperventilation, you can get feelings of dizziness, agitation or unease, strong emotions, tingling in your hands and your feet, and some muscle spasms, which are harmless in most people. If you do have severe asthma or any heart issues, then you should always do breath work under the coaching of a qualified practitioner and after, checking with your doctor. But the good news is that there's no reported cases, 0 reported cases in the literature, in the research, of heart attacks, strokes, or other serious ill effects from breath work. So it appears to be quite safe in general for most healthy people. One theory about the difference between circular or holotropic breath work and hyperventilation syndrome in the extreme medical sense of the term, where very low levels of carbon dioxide in the brain and the blood lead to decreased driving to breathe in again, is that the technique of circular breathing, because you inhale right at the end of the exhale without waiting for the carbon dioxide levels to rise first, you avoid some of the negative effects of clinical, like severe hyperventilation syndrome. Another theory about the differences is that clinical hyperventilation syndrome, you get a lot of sympathetic nervous system activation or fight or flight overdrive, versus you get a lot less of this fight or flight reaction in breath work when it's done properly with a qualified coach. Based on some preliminary research, both hyperventilation syndrome and breath work may actually activate similar regions of the brain and, result in this mild decrease in carbon dioxide and mild increase in oxygen. And this is thought to actually activate parts of this parasympathetic nervous system and it activate parasympathetic dominance to reach altered states without ingesting any drugs or any substances, which is pretty cool stuff. Studies have also now shown that holotropic breath work actually improves something called HRV, or heart rate variability, and state anxiety level. Both of these things, heart rate variability and anxiety level, are known to significantly decrease the chance of ever having a heart attack or a stroke. So holotropic breathwork seems to be quite good for you in general. So getting back to substance-induced trances, so Dr. Stanislav Grof, who I mentioned earlier.
So that video is a little technical. So let me just show you a more simplified description of holotropic breath work. And it's short so that we all can really get a good understanding of what this is about. And this is a newer video. And so let's just take note of why this is a key tool or important tool when you're trying to resolve conflicts that have occurred, emotional conflicts especially in your life. This can be very helpful if you can understand the consciousness behind it.
Fascinating and complex technique that combines elements. Holotropic breathing is a fascinating and complex technique that combines elements of breathwork, psychology, and spirituality. It's designed to induce altered states of consciousness, similar to those experienced with psychedelic substances like LSD and psilocybin. The technique is often sought for personal growth, emotional healing, and self-exploration. Here's a detailed breakdown of its principles, process, and potential effects. The primary goal of holotropic breathing is to reach an altered state of mind, where individuals may experience vivid visualizations, emotional catharsis, and profound self-exploration. It's used as a therapeutic tool for healing past traumas and gaining new insights, potentially leading to transformative personal experiences. Technique and practice involves rapid and deep breathing in a specific rhythm, often accompanied by evocative music, to stimulate the mind and body. Holotropic breathing usually practiced in groups within controlled and safe settings. Participants may engage in spontaneous movements or expressive gestures to enhance the experience. Physiological effects: the breathing technique alters the blood's pH level, leading to respiratory alkalosis, which can stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. Initially, there's an increase in adrenaline, heart rate, and blood pressure due to the activation of the fight or flight response. Over time, the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, promoting relaxation and decreasing sympathetic activity. Change in blood gas levels and nervous system stimulation can lead to changes in perception and consciousness. What we know from studies and meta-analysis. Research suggests a small to moderate effect in reducing anxiety and stress, with a lesser impact on depression. Holotropic technique can decrease activity in anxiety-associated brain regions like amygdala, and increase neuroplasticity like prefrontal cortex, especially in areas that regulate emotions.
So I wanted to just give you a more in-depth explanation of holotropic and the breathing, rebirthing. But let me go back to Patty's story for those of you who might be just joining us, because her story is so transparent. You don't always have individuals sharing the details of their healing like she does. And again, she's grew up in a Cherokee Nation environment in Oklahoma. And my journey in this day 2024 is to bring back our Native American wisdom and knowledge. And she's doing that with the information of German New Medicine. which I am going to be sharing more and more because it is working for so many people, but there's such a misunderstanding. So let me continue with a little bit more of Patty's story in case you missed it on Friday. I want you to just hear how this journey using the consciousness of rebirthing, the type of breathing and all that, as some people describe, and there's lots of information on YouTube about this. The type of breathing that you go through, it's so varied that it's the most important thing to remember is surrendering to your body's ability to heal when you take the time to breathe consistently, consciously, with the intention of healing your trauma and resolving the conflict. So here's a little bit more of Patty's testimony.
Clear to you that I've got to resolve this conflict.
When I started to understand what the difference between conflict active and the conflict resolution, when I started to understand the difference between the sleeping cycles, that's when I started to realize I'm not sleeping. And so that's when I started to engage with, purposely engaging with emotional trauma, breathing, exercising, and meditation, and just conscious thinking about these things and realizing that I was still in conflict active and that I needed to really focus on sleeping at night. I needed to get over this as quickly as I could. So I did 3 rebirthing sessions in a 1-week period on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And all 3 sessions brought up emotional traumas from the past. The third one was so traumatic at the end that I actually threw up. I had to run to the bathroom and throw up. So all 3 of them brought up all kinds of stuff from the past involving men. And none of them were my father, by the way. My father was never, there was never an issue between me and my father. There was only love. But I have had a lot of traumatic experiences in the past with other men. So these things all became apparent, and this was in the summer of last year. So this was about 6 to 8 months after my father's death that I engaged in these activities. And it was about 2 weeks after those 3 rebirthing exercises that I started to notice a small lump on the right breast. That's when I started to realize I might be going through this myself.
Wow. Okay. Now, were the rebirthing technique that you did, was this something you went through with someone else, or did you do it all by yourself?
I did it with someone else.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Experience with it, yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. And so was it the third one that you just really felt that release? Was it immediate that you started sleeping the next night, or did it kind of take a few days to normalize?
It was within days after that.
Okay.
I started to notice and tell others, wow, I'm actually starting to sleep at night. And then I know it was about 2 weeks after that I noticed the lump, because that's when I was like starting to line dots up in my head for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when because I have, like I said, because I actually teach classes on how to do certain things for the body nutrition wise when you notice a lump. So I just started doing them.
Now, let me pause here because on Friday, I told you about a woman named Ananda Lewis who was doing all the nutritional stuff and the holistic therapy to heal her breast disease. And her recent Instagram, I actually follow her on Instagram. She's doing fantastic, she says, and she looks great because she says she's not going to give up on her holistic process and lifestyle. So she's probably incorporating things like rebirthing and breathing because she's just going full in on everything she can do naturally to heal her body. Just like Patty's story here. She went the whole 9 yards and did everything from her training, from her experience. And that's why she healed her lump in her right breast. And she's continuing to teach this this and share her story. Now, I only scheduled this for an hour, but if we go over time, it's okay. I want to take time for comments or questions. If you have any questions or comments, press 1 in the studio. And I see a comment here. Let's see, this is on YouTube. All right. So this person, Abu Diofi, I hope that pronounced it right. Power of breath work and pranayama, holotropic breathing. I'll have to do some research on it. Fascinating. Yes. Thank you for that comment. I hope that this is showing everyone that it is fascinating. And the more you do the research, the more you will be convinced that your body has the ability to heal in this manner. This chart back here is from a journey that I went on after my sister's breast disease journey. And I met a woman who was teaching German New Medicine before my sister passed. And I got excited and I thought it was fast. And I did all the research. I even went to Canada after my sister passed to learn for 3 days of teaching on German New Medicine. And German New Medicine, they didn't teach me about the power of the breath work and prana, but it taught me about the stages that our body goes through when we have a major trauma in our life, like in Patty's case, the death of her father, that sent her body into major conflict active. So let me go to the phones. I have a hand up in our studio, 773-808. Your mic is open. Welcome, and give us your name, please, where you're calling from.
Hello, this is Kofi.
Hi, Kofi. Come on. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Watching the madness, staying out the way.
That's right. So
but
what?
I was going to.
Go ahead.
I was going to explain any kind of lumps. I had a lump as a child on my right breast.
Really?
Any kind of lumps. Yeah. The food that we eat causes all kind of inflammation in our body. I mean, yeah, we can connect it to stress from our family, connection with people. That's agreeable. But what that does, that distracts us from taking care of ourselves. When we're distracted from others, people's issues in our lives, we don't take care of ourselves. Okay? So when you're having those inflammation issues, whether it's in your breast or legs or whatever, you have to clean yourself out. That's your body warning you that you have chemicals from the food that you've been eating, and you need to detox and get those out. Green herbs, water fast, and stop eating poison, because that's what creates breast cancer, inflammation, is eating poison foods. And then we have issues with others, your parents or whatever. And what that does, that distracts you from taking care of yourself. Okay? I've been through that. Sometimes you got to unplug everybody else and take care of yourself.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Now, on the other hand, my experience has been this. Sometimes you have people who focus on nothing but the physical diet and what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, and they don't consider the conflicts in their relationships. My experience is this, Kufi, with my sister, who I knew all my life, and her focus was on her food, her diet, exercise. And then when she developed a conflict with the death of her daughter, that she couldn't get out of that conflict active and couldn't resolve the grief, the unforgiveness, and the guilt. That's when the breast disease exploded in her body. You have to balance both. It's even, in my opinion, it's more important to balance the emotional conflict, which will eventually lead you to take better care of your body. But if you're constantly in grief and unforgiveness, you're going to be eating for comfort. Most people are eating for comfort. They're going to eat a lot of junk food. But when you resolve the grief and the unforgiveness and get into gratitude, many people will go into taking better care of their body. It's not the reverse, in my experience. You don't take care of your body and ignore the conflicts you have in your relationships and think you're going to be well. That didn't happen in my sister's case. It didn't happen in Patty's case, as she just described here. She had to stop and do some emotional healing work. And she said there were a lot of men in her life that she had to heal from those relationships. So I appreciate your experience. And that's what makes German New Medicine. What are you saying?
And I would say to get into that realm, fasting 24 hours.
Right.
Stop talking to people.
Right.
Be quiet.
Yes.
And listen to yourself.
Yeah, and she did that. My sister did all of that, and her cancer still spread in her body because she could not let go of the grief, the unforgiveness, and the guilt. So let me go to another caller, because I think we have a question here from, looks like Brother Kwame.
We all have an issue called Savior's Complex. We want to save the world, but we don't want to save ourselves. I just want to plug that in.
And see, all of that, that's a great suggestion, because Kufi, all of that will come out in a therapy session. When people are serious about getting well and they talk to other therapists or professionals, it'll come out if you have a savior complex and you're trying to save. And that's not what therapy should be about, trying to save everybody. It's about helping you take charge of your health. So, Kwame Sunhorse, you have a question about, I saw something in, welcome. First of all, welcome. And I thought I saw a question from you in YouTube.
Yeah, I did. And thank you, Sister Viata, and greetings, Brother Kufi. I don't know if I've shared with you, as of recently, I found out that I've got, what do they call it? Moderate COPD.
Uh-huh.
And I just had CT scans, and I got the scan results back Friday. And I've got 3 nodes. I got one in the left lung and the right lung and in the center. And what I have to do, I've got to go back in 3 months in January, because they have to watch. They're benign right now and looking at it. So the thing that has to happen is watching. And this came from me constantly steady smoking cigarettes for all those years. And, I stopped smoking 4 months ago when just before diagnosis came up, because I had a bout with pneumonia. And I thought it was bronchitis, and then it comes out to be that it's COPD. So therein lies the healing, because once you get that, your lungs are damaged permanently because you destroyed some tissues in there. And so the part now is learning to breathe again and being able to know that you can't take extreme heat, you can't take extreme cold. Therein lies me doing sweat lodges. So I'm looking at these awakenings that I've gotten about my body and what I have done to my body. And so therein lies me going back and working with my recovery program, because I gave up drinking and drugging 43 years ago. Now it's the part of my giving up that tobacco. So it's understanding that I would say, parts of my life that I didn't completely take a complete inventory, where you're talking about things of trauma and things that are situated in your life, because these are triggers. that cause you to react. And this is part of what happened because, you know, this happened. My mom died in December of last year, and therein began the coughing and the different things. And who knows, I think I've been searching myself, you know, and looking at, you know, is this part of that trauma of her, you know, because she was an asthmatic. Her 3 sisters died from COPD. And I threw my last pack of cigarettes in my aunt's grave in July when we buried her. And therein lies the part of breaking those things in which they're either epigenetic, they're trauma behaviors, or they're ways in which we cope that can damage the body. Like you're saying, your sister with grieving. Grieving has a great wear and tear on the human body until you understand how to release it and own that life is eternal, but we just change from a body to a spirit. And these are the things in which you learn on this spiritual journey, because there is no death. There's just a transition going back to the unknown, because we were unknown before we were conceived. We were unknown before we conceived. And so therein lies the challenge, that we return back to that energy source that we were before we entered into our mother's womb. So these are all parts of the lessons of how we're now being able to shift in these conscious ways from a Homo sapien to a Homo spiritus, and the part of understanding that there's a greater evolution coming for humans on this planet because of the change in where we are in the solar system, in the galaxy, and in the evolving of our species. So I thank you for this about the breath.
Yes, and in your case, you're in a healing you're in a conflict resolution, because you have you already know the trauma that you went through with your mom, the cigarettes, all of that was a stress on your body. So now you can observe your body's process of healing as you do more, as you love yourself more. And as you do the breathing, look into the rebirthing and the holotropic. And as you do that, more stuff may come out that's contributing to those nodules in your lungs. And then those will be broken up. But I was thinking about essential oils. Do you use any essential oils?
Yeah, I've got some peppermints, eucalyptus. That helps in the breathing, but I'm also using a nebulizer. And in me using this nebulizer, I'm making mullein and what they call grandfather's beard, or what's called Spanish moss.
Right.
And using that and making a tea, and you putting it into a nebulizer in order for that to be turned into a mist to go directly into the lungs, as opposed to drinking it in through as a tea. So I'm using herbal medicines and ways in which to help the breathing, but it's just that being able to cope with the transition of finding out now, and being able to work with breathing, as well as I can from the damage that I did.
Right. So and when you say the damage I did, that means you definitely have to speak forgiveness for what you did, and not be a victim, but bring your frequency up.
No, right, but that's what I'm admitting it, because I have to own something in order to begin the process of forgiving.
Right. So then
if I don't acknowledge it, then I can't look at how I forgive myself for doing this.
Right.
And that was part of the therapy, or the thing that I went with the 12-step program, drinking and drugging. So
right.
I had to be able to acknowledge that I was, powerless over alcohol and drugs, And so therein lies the possibility of making the change that I needed to make.
So are you familiar with David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force?
I've heard of it, but I haven't had a chance to read it.
Okay, so the most
important
information to me out of that book is the map of consciousness, and that's where you begin to realize and become fully aware of the emotions you carry have a frequency and a vibration that, in this case, will heal whatever it is you need healing. For instance, on his map of consciousness, the high frequency emotions are peace, joy, love, acceptance, serenity, reverence, understanding, and forgiveness. So when you're staying in those emotions as a response to everything going in your life, then your body is going to heal because of the high frequency. But if you are, say, reacting with fear, anger, grief, regret, despair, blame, these are the things, and shame. Oh, shame is at the lowest frequencies are shame, humiliation, despising, guilt, and blame. That's why so many people in our community are really sick.
And fear.
Because they're blaming. The blame is very low frequency. If you don't come out of blame, then you're going to have health issues. You're going to have challenges in your body, because that's a low frequency emotion coming out of the brain. Even your microbiome is not going to be at its best when you're carrying blame and shame. It can't. The brain is communicating a message of blame and shame throughout the body. Your microbiome, your microbes, all that, they can't even thrive in that environment. So that's what you're in a really awesome place to observe your body's healing as you stay in a consciousness of forgiveness, joy, peace, love, and acceptance. And in the case of this holotropic breath work and rebirthing, as he said, the surrender part is what's, even if you were to just go out in nature and close your eyes and just breathe and surrender to the truth of the tide going to the shore and not stopping. That's the breath, the rhythm this guy was describing, if you heard earlier, that it's like watching the waves come to the shore. They don't stop suddenly, they just keep going back and forth, back and forth. And that's the type of breath you want to practice, is that rhythm of coming forward and just flowing, going in a circle, not stopping, but letting your breath surrender, and trust the cycle of healing.
This is part of, right, but what you're speaking on, this is part of the pulmonary, this is what pulmonary, they teach you how to, the breath as far as learning how to breathe with this.
Yes.
And so these are the ways, and living in nature. I live in 2 acres of wood.
Yes.
So I'm surrounded by trees and a lake. So I'm in the safe environment for that part to be, but it's understanding how to live with what is still possible of being able to have a healthy life, even though I've got shortness of breath, So these are the things in which, I'm able to own and acknowledge and work through, knowing that a power greater than me can restore me back.
Absolutely. It's exciting. And you can teach others about your journey, as well as experience new things in your breath in nature. Because now you're breathing without the interference of smoke coming into your lungs, without the grief of, your mother passing. All those negative low frequency emotions are kind of drifting away now from your experience. So you can enjoy more oxygen in your environment that's not interfered with all these emotions that you've had to overcome. So I'm excited for you. And I'm sure you're walking barefoot, right? Occasionally grounding. You get to do that where you are?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Because that's why I walk to the mailbox.
Yeah.
And to, be able to travel through the land and just sit outside on the porch.
And then fasting.
And
fasting is key. Either intermittent fasting or 2 or 3 days of fasting on nothing but juices. You choose your fasting style, but when you're fasting, that energy is going to go to healing your lungs.
Right.
So I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Mama AZ is at a powwow. I spoke to her today, and she sounds so much better than I've talked to her in the past. So I'm excited for her as well. She has one of the biggest challenges that I've ever heard or seen with her body, but she knows the environment she needs to be in to be at a highest frequency. And that's, I think, with all of us, we have to find the right environment. For me, the beach is just a perfect therapy, healing. And now that I think about his description of how the tide comes in, that's the breathing pattern we want, watching how the tide comes in, and our breathing should just flow like the ocean coming into the shore and going back. Inhaling and exhaling, not stopping, but just letting it flow. And then not letting people, so much food interferes with this process of resolving conflicts, because the body wants to get us at a higher vibration, and all this food, comfort food, just gets in the way. So thank you so much for sharing that, Kwame. And I want to end with this Native American prayer that I've learned, the prayer of the galactic directions. Again, for all of you who are here and listening and journeying with me, I'm moving more and more into my ancestral native culture and practices. I'm making linen ponchos, native linen ponchos. A friend of mine is talking about doing quilts. And I'm excited about that because I have a quilt from my grandmother that is just reminds me of the simplicity of life in the Native community. Oh, we got more comments here. Let me just from Abu. Thank you, Abu, for joining us. Got a lot of comments. He says lungs hold sadness, grief, and despair. Right. That's some of the emotions that we're dealing with when we have lung problems. So we have to breathe and surrender to healing. Kidneys hold on to fear, Abu says. And then liver holds anger. We're getting a little teaching on the body here. Heart holds impatience, hate, jealousy, and resentment. Okay. So look at all the emotions that are caught up in our organs and tissues. And that's why the breathing, the holotropic and the rebirthing breathing will help you get to the root, like Abu is describing here, of why you have these imbalances in your body. Abu says stomach, spleen, pancreas store worry, anxiety, and tension. And for lungs, courage, strength, and fortitude are important, he says. Positive emotion for kidneys, gentleness and kindness, absolutely. Liver, forgiveness, peacefulness, and tranquility, yes, yes, yes. And shift happens on Monday morning, mindfulness. I thought that was, so Zelda is here with us to remind us to get into Monday morning practice, where she brings a beautiful meditation every Monday morning that helps us get into the sounds that help us heal, the sounds that bring us peace and relaxation. And tomorrow, Shift Happens is her title on Monday morning, mindfulness, YouTube higher learning TV show. So get up in the morning, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and join Zelda for more healing work. We are in just a healing mode. After this double moon, my body is still going through some healing work. I've got so much mucus coming out of me, but if you don't know anything about mucus, remember, if your mucus is clear, it's just healing your body. It's just helping you get rid of the inflammation or heal the inflammation in your body. If it starts turning colors like yellow, green, that's when you need some golden seal or echinacea, because you've got an infection of some type where the body's working harder to help you get over the inflammation. Okay, and then we got more from Abu. Heart for love, gratitude, appreciation, and stomach, spleen, pancreas, centeredness, confidence, and blissfulness. All right. Thank you, Abu. That's very helpful for us tonight. So let me just read this prayer that brings a lot of love energy, healing energy, and Native American wisdom. It's the 7 galactic directions. And you can go online to get the prayer. We say, from the East House of Light, may wisdom dawn in us so we may see things clearly, see all things in clarity. That's a prayer that all of us need to say. From the north, and you face each direction. From the north, may wisdom ripen in us so we may know all from within. From the west, house of transformation, may wisdom be transformed into right action so we must do what must be done. And from the south, house of the eternal sun, may right action reap the harvest so we may enjoy the fruits of planetary being. From above, house of heaven, where star people and ancestors gather, may their blessings come to us now. And from below, this is my favorite line of this, may the heartbeat of her crystal core bless us with harmonies to end all war. That's at the heart of my decisions to either vote for certain people or not, because we got to end these wars. And then it's Ayum Hunabku Eva Maya Imaho, Ayum Hunabku Eva Maya Imaho, Ayum Hunabku Eva Maya Imaho. That means all hail the harmony of mind and nature. And I think part of the reason we develop these dis-eases, these conflicts, we're out of harmony with our mind and nature, the birds, the bees. And this hurricane that went through Florida, brought me out into nature for 2 whole days. I was just sitting watching birds and bees and the trees and giving thanks for clouds and the sun that finally came out. Oh boy, it has been the best time after that hurricane. I am just so grateful to have been able to develop my courage, my faith, and trust in a universe that loves us enough to protect us, even though there were hurricanes, not just hurricanes, but tornadoes everywhere in Florida, that people were just shocked at all the hurricanes or the tornadoes that went through Florida. But as for me and my house, I serve the Creator. As for me and my house, we were protected. When you are serving the Creator and nature and giving back the love, wisdom, and compassion that created you in the womb. That's what created us all in the womb, was love, compassion, wisdom. And when we give that back, we're going to be protected. We're going to prosper. We're going to be in good health. So thank you all for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure. Let me just check Blog Talk Radio. We have any comments here? Nope, everybody's good. Thank you all. Have a great week. The weather is fabuloso here in Florida. Oh my goodness, just wonderful. This is the best time in Florida, and I'll be praying for all you northerners as the cold comes and we're still in flip-flops. So here's our closing for our global family in the Female Solution.
breathwork.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jaref. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.
And to all my yogi friends out there, namaste, sat nam, and aloha, aloha to all my brothers and sisters in Maui, Lahaina. Recovery is here. We send love and rebuilding, restoring to Maui, that beautiful island. Thank you all. Have a great week and see you in the morning with Zelda Morning.